All right, all right. Hey, appreciate you guys joining me for this Sunday. Um, so this one I try to do at the end of each month, kind of like a Q&A and then a design-a-thon. So some ideas that I've been looking for the next month's build or the second month going into it. Um, Still trying to finish the other projects on the backlog, but this kind of projects what I'll do here in the next couple months for like the next 3 months or something like that. And I'll use this opportunity to just kind of walk through just some design workflows and just some ideas and just walking through Fusion 360 and trying to do some of that stuff. Um, Posted a video earlier this week, yesterday, and that was a result of some failed test cuts that just weren't working out. So I had to redesign and relook at basically the majority of the stuff that I have, um, just to make it work. And like when you're in Fusion 360 and you're doing some design workflows and trying to make everything work, it's different when you get into the garage and you have physical material in your hands and you're trying to work a machine. And sometimes it just there's little issues they didn't catch when you're doing the simulation and the cam work. And it tries to get you there, but man, again, when you're working with physical material and things are different just a little bit, you can go back, and that's why test cuts are so important. You can identify a lot of that before you get into really expensive material, and all of a sudden you're wasting a ton. So that was the workaround and the redesign. I ended up redesigning my shop sign to make it look a little bit more organic. So I'll share what this thing actually looks like now. And what I ended up doing was I kind of flipped the design where it's a triangle instead of a rectangular shape, and that turned out I really like it. And so that led me to a different design pattern for the honeycombs, and then modified my um, company logo. And what I ended up doing is making sure that all of this stuff would be machinable with my bits and bit engraver. And again, this thing's super awesome. It has two flutes, and but again, the depth of cut is right around zero point 0.5 of an inch, and some of these crevices are really deep. So I covered the workaround on how to do multiple step downs to achieve that cut in Fusion. And again, there's a whole laundry list of stuff that you got to really take into consideration. And again, it's all about machining these deep pockets, and this distance varies on all of the honeycombs. So there has to be a solution, and that video really did capture what that solution was going to be. So that was good. That gets me back to where I need to be. And when I get into the manufacturer side, I'm still working all the tool path generation and everything that's needed to do this. So I'm almost finished with all the tool paths for the female body and everything that needs to go into it. Right now, I'm about 10 hours for that cut. That is significant. That's a lot of time on the machine, not including all the other pieces that need to be machined. And it's good, but that's where I'm at with that. But for this design-a-thon, I wanted to really look at how to make I did that American flag puzzle, and I did a normal box for that. And I was thinking at some point I want to make a box that has an American flag that's wavy on top of the box for the lid. And then when you open it up, it shows the puzzle. And for this design-a-thon, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make that box. We'll do all the profile cuts and what that actually means. I'm going to use the same profile for the wavy surface as I did for the actual puzzle. So they'll mirror each other. So when you look at the box, you'll see the wavy flag that's completed and it's not puzzled. And then when you open it, uh, it'll showcase the actual puzzle itself. So we'll kind of walk through the design process on that. But let's see, Brooks, you asked, so the 2D versus 3D inlays, are the tool times much different? No. So you're still removing the same amount of material almost. And in some cases, you're removing less on the 3D design and maybe more on the 2D design, depending on what it is. But you're still just removing that material. So if you program your roughing passes with the pocket and then come around with that 2D profile, those machine times aren't really going to be that different. What's different is you have to go in and you have to put that 3D profile back in. And as the tool is going and doing that back and forth with a really small step over, that's what increases the overall machine time. So to do the profile on this, I think that was close to almost 6 hours. And this thing's pretty large. This is a 20 by 20 square. And yeah, it's about three hours and 22 minutes, but you got to times that by 2 because you end up having to do that profile again to cut the top off. So yes, the 3D profile cut to get that surface. I mean, you're adding a ton of time to the overall project. And same way with the inserts, you're still cutting that 3D profile also. So the same bit, that ball nose coming in to do that 3D curvature, still in there. And that still takes a bunch of time. So yeah, if you're going to compare overall, not just the pockets, it's considerably more. But again, it still looks really, really cool when it's done, and it's unique enough to where you could justify a price difference based on the overall design compared to a 2D design. So definitely takes into consideration the overall price of the project. So if you're trying to get to 50 to 100 hours of machine time per hour, like it's, the price increases significantly. And if your target audience of who you're trying to sell to isn't within that reach of that price point, then you got to start bringing it back down. And then you got to really ask the question of, is it actually worth it? This case, it's for me, it's absolutely worth it. And I'm going to really enjoy hanging this on my wall when it's actually done. So, alrighty, so let's do something here. I'm gonna hide this. Let's take this out, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start prepping to start looking at this box design. And feel free to ask more questions throughout this, but I'm gonna start trying to get this design working. What I'm going to do is I upload all of my Fusion 360 files to Patreon, and depending on the price point, and I try to sell some of that stuff just to keep the lights on. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this up, the one that's actually posted on my Patreon. Let's see. Let's work on. Let's find it here. I have so many different files and different drawings that it's hard to keep up with. Let's do. Yeah, it's going to be this one. All right, we'll pull this up. So this is the profile for the American wavy flag puzzle. Let me pull. Let's do completed render. This is a pretty large file. There's a lot of bodies to this thing, so we'll might take a while for this thing to load. There it is. All right, so each one of these are individual puzzle pieces that make an American wavy flag. What you don't see here is any of the stars that are cut out. Um, they're programmed into the tool passes based on a drawing. So let's go ahead. We'll unhide this base. So if I was to make this American wavy flag puzzle again, I know that the overall dimensions are good, and I made this before, and that's why the file is posted, and everything lined up extremely well within these parameters. So if I was to make a box, I know that the dimensions for this thing to fit in, I can measure everything off of this model, and it's going to be good. So if we know that these are our known distances for what's going inside the box, really all I need to know is these dimensions that are allocated to these bodies, these renders, and then the overall thickness of my box walls that I want, and then the overall height for clearance. That will give me a good base for this to sit inside, and then also the lid to come down and actually look at this thing. So let's go ahead and let's do some measurements really quick. So the inspect tool is super awesome. I can measure an edge, or I can measure points to get overall distances of what I'm looking at. So if I was to select this edge, it doesn't go all the way across because there's cutouts that are inside this. So if I was to click this point and this point, it will give me the overall distance of 14.5 inches. When I draw these things, I draw specifically to known dimensions. And if I like this distance and it's easy to look at and understand how to design the box, not taking into account for any tolerances. So if I was to design an inside box that was exactly 14.5, when I slip this entire thing inside of it, it's probably going to hit and it's not going to fit. And what I don't want to do is start doing some beer math on Fusion 360 on trying to account for that. The easiest method to make sure this box fits is when I make these inserts here, is I'm just going to take it to the table saw and I'm just going to cut it short. So I can still have some really good dimensional, material that I can design with. And then I can account for those tolerances later on when, I'm just trying to make it fit, and I can shave off just a little bit. You'll never notice that this thing was not exactly 14 and a half. If it was 14, you would definitely notice. But if I was just to take, a 16th inch off of this edge to make sure that this entire thing fit in that box, I'm good to go. There's no concern there. And you'll never notice it. Unless you're a perfectionist and you have a tape measure out and you'd be like, nope, this thing is not 100% the dimensions that you said it was going to be. There's some people out there like that. And unfortunately, you just gotta play with it a little bit. But for this purpose, it really makes things very simple for me to design a box that this thing is going to fit in. So if I know this is 14 and a half, and then I'll measure this outside box of this point, this point to this point is 9 inches. So my inside of my box needs to be 14 and a half by 9. That is my known good distances that I got to meet. If I go any smaller than that, I'm going to be in trouble. So what we can do is, let's just go to the top view here. I'm going to create a new drawing, and we'll go ahead and hide this body quick. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to hide these sketches. I had some stuff visible here. Let's work only off of this box. So what I can do, since and you can see that, the plane that I'm working off of isn't there. And that'll be a little bit of a challenge later on once we start making sure the height differences are good. But what we can do is I can project these points that I need to hit. So let's go ahead and if I know, let's just go ahead and we'll select all these bottom edges. So we'll select project, and we're going to use the project tool. And so I'm going to project this edge down to my sketch. And when I click on it, you can see that there's a little icon there. Even though I'm above the surface, when you look down at it, it projects it down to your drawing. We'll do this one. We'll do this corner. We're going to do this corner just to get over those dimensions here. And the last one of this one. I'm going to hit OK on that. I have to bring up this new sketch that I have. Okay, so now I'm going to hide these bodies since I know where I'm at on the where that model is located. Let's go ahead and let's draw a box, but I'm going to go from this point to the middle of that. Then I'm going to do the same thing. And all I'm doing is just hovering over it and then hovering over this point, and then it will give me my center points along that edge. So there's my box, and then we'll just double check the dimensions and make sure that I hit everything that I needed. So this should be 14.5, which it is. I'm just going to hit OK on that. And then the same thing for this, and this should be 9. Yep. Okay, so now another critical dimension that we need to understand. The overall thickness of my walls of my box. So each side and the material that I'm going to use. I like to make the boxes and 1/2 of an inch thick. And that makes it really, really simple. And then when I process the wood, I can hit that 0.5 pretty easy. I'm removing a lot of material. So what I'll end up doing, I'll like to go to like 0.75. But again, there's so much material there, and it's heavy, and it doesn't feel like a normal, slick box. So I like to use 0.5. And for this, that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and use the offset tool. And I'm just going to select the entire box outline. And then I'm going to increase it by 0.5. A negative 0.5, just to get outside the box. I'm going to enter on that. So there is my overall thickness and dimensions of everything that I need to cut. So and I'm going to miter this. And what I can do is I can just put in the miters right now at a 45. This will be each side, each face of the material that I'm going to make in the garage. So now my overall distance of everything that I need to cut, whatever material that I'm going to use, is 15.5, right? That's the outside of my miter cut that I'll do. The other thing that we need to figure out is how we're going to produce the top of the lid structure of the American flag and how we're going to input that into the box. And I like to rabbet and shoulder and do that type of joint where it slips right in and everything is held and all the edges are really good. So to do that, I'll end up leaving a shoulder of 0.25, and that will, again, I can use the same tool that we did, the offset function, and I'm going to select all the corners again. And then I'm going to take this a negative 0.25. I'm going to hit OK on that. There is my overall dimensions of the American flag that I need to hit to fit into those shoulders and that joint of that box based on, the thickness of being 0.5 and then the enough distance for whatever I'm going to put in the box to go into it. So those are really the critical dimensions that I need to understand and design off of, which is good. So let's go ahead and I like it. So the flag distance will be 15 by 9.5. And those are we got to really think about how that interlaces. So the American flag will be visible on this line. So when the sides crump up together on each side, and the rabbets are underneath, um, this is my show of the entire top of that box. So really, it's 14 and a half by 9. That is the overall dimension of the American flag that I need to make. So that is good. I like that. So let's go ahead and we're going to finish this sketch. And now the second portion that I really need to understand is how deep I need to make everything. As far as the overall thickness of that box. If I remember right, and what we can do is we can bring back the completed render of this. What I can do is, if I know this is my bottom, I can draw a sketch off of this plane. Oop. Let's try that again. If I know this is my bottom, let's do, yeah. We'll just measure from this line. So I need to know, like, I need to understand that my clearance for this object to go into the box on the bottom side needs to be at least, I'm going to round up and say it needs to be at least 1.5 inches. What I also need to do is account for the box lid. So if I know my clearance, let's go 1.5. And then for the lid, I want at least 1 inch. Let's go 0.5 to the top of my lid. This gives me my overall dimension from this to the bottom. And then what I can do is I'm going to leave, let's use 1/2 inch material for the bottom. Yeah, that should be fine. So let's do that. So the bottom portion of the box will be 0.5. The American flag, what I'll probably do is make it 1/4 inch thick. Well, maybe we should probably do more than that. Yeah, no, I think that's good. 0.5 plus another 1/4 inch. Let's do 0.25. So my overall thickness should be 0.275 as far as the width of the depth of that box. So let's go ahead and we'll go back here. And we can verify these measurements later, but 1.5 inches for whatever's going inside of it is probably good. I left enough material for the actual American flag to slip in, and then enough at the bottom for the base of the box, plus an additional 1/4 inch of material. So 2.75 sounds about right. So let's go ahead and we'll hide that sketch. We'll save that for later. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude these walls up. So I'm going to do both. I'm going to do this inside corner and this. That's my 1/2 inch. Let's just make sure I hit all of it. Yep. So we'll bring this up to 2.75. And then we're going to make sure we click new body, and then this will be for the other side also. So that's 2 sides. Let's bring the sketch back up. Oh, I don't have my history on. Okay, I disabled my history. I'll have to go back in and fix that later. That's fine though. Ooh, there we go. And then we'll do it for the other side. And this will all be new bodies. This will be 2.75. We're going to do new body. And same for this side. All right, we'll hit OK on that. And there is the walls for that. Now for this thing, what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on making the top portion and have enough room for each rabbit to go in, and we'll design that American flag. And then we'll put a wavy surface on it. And that should be pretty cool. So that is actually right where we need to be. Again, these tolerances are really tight. I'll take my table saw and I'll whack off maybe a 1/16 of an inch. That will give me a 32nd on each side of clearance. Super good. For this, I don't have to do that. And that's really, really important. You know, if I was to put an additional 1/16 of an inch on this to account for that tolerance, then everything gets really wonky. And then when I get in the garage, I know that I gotta cut that. And it's easier to cut 14.5 than it is 14.5 plus a 16th, you know? So I'm trying to make life easier in the garage when I go through this. And for every action that I do here, I'm thinking about how I'm actually going to do this with the machines that I have and the capability I have in the garage. That's really, really important. If I design something in here that's not feasible, that I can't, like I physically can't do in the garage because I'm missing a tool, that puts me in a position now where I'm going to have failure on the project, or I'm going to have to go buy something. And if I know the tools that I have in the garage, you know, and whatever I'm working with is capable, I'm good to go. So I really keep that in the back of my mind when I'm going through this. So let's go ahead. I'm going to hide this. Let's go. Yeah, let's hide this and we'll just work with this now. Let's go ahead and yeah, I like it. We'll use this top portion. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a sketch off of this face. And then I'm going to draw a new box. And I'm going to go off of this point. And because I can't click on that point, I'm going to take this point and I'm going to project it to the drawing that I'm at now. So I'm going to use the project tool again. And I'm going to project this corner with this corner. Now I'm going to hit OK on that. Now I can snap based on the drawing that I want to this. And I like it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset this 1/4 of an inch for the overall depth that I need. So let's go ahead and yeah, let's go 0.25. I'm going to hit OK on that. There is my shoulder or rabbit. That's going to go in and join those two together. And then, so let's go ahead and I'm going to hit OK on that. I'm going to drop this down. I'm going to drop both down though. And I'm going to go down. Let's see. Did I say 1/4 of an inch? And let's do 1/2 of an inch. I think that's achievable, what we want. Yeah, I should really do, let's do 0.75. I'm going to run into what's going to get put inside there, but we'll fix that later. I'm going to make this box just a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and do new body. So it's not cutting into these corners. And that is good to go. So the overall thickness of the top of that lid is 0.75 of an inch. Now let's go ahead and cut this corner, but I'm going to hide these corners. I'm gonna go down. Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's what I'm gonna have to do. What I'm thinking about is when I cut this profile, I don't want to run into the profile of the wavy flag. So this distance is pretty critical. And later on, you'll see exactly what I mean here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave a 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to cut a rabbet, and there's going to be a 1/4 of an inch of material that's left over. So let's go ahead, since I clicked this, let's go down 0.5 of an inch. That'll give me my 1/4 inch rabbet. All right. So let's hide the sketch. There's the top of my box. Now what I can bring in is these corners. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut that rabbet into each one of these sides. So to do the easiest way to do this is I'm going to use the combine tool, and I'm going to use the cut function. So I'm going to click the cut, and first I wish I could choose multiple bodies to do this. I have to do these individually, and sometimes, man, that it does take a while. But for this, there's only 4, so it's not bad. So the target body that I want to cut is going to be each side of these corners. And man, let's see if it will do this. Nope. It will only let me do one. So let me select this. The tool body is going to be the top of this face. And what it's going to do is it's going to cut that notch that it overlaps into it. So I'm going to hit keep tool and then hit OK. So let's hide all this stuff, and we'll see what actually happened here when I did that operation. So you can see now that it cut that into it. Now, again, we talk about tolerances. All I have to do is just take that to my table saw and just shave the inside of this corner on this box, maybe a 32nd, maybe a 16th, and I'm good to go. I will never run into that. But for modeling purposes, I can butt this up and not account for any tolerance, and I'm still good to go. When I get into the garage, I got to really think about that. Okay, so what we'll do now is let's do it for the rest of the sides here. We'll use the combine tool again. We'll select this, the cutting tool. We'll keep the body. We'll do it again. And actually, so if I was to hit OK, this dialog box goes away, and then I have to come back up here and hit this. When I'm going through this really fast, what I'll do is I'll right click and then repeat the operation. That way I don't have to go back up to my menu and select it. So let's go ahead and do that. So this side is good. This side we just did. We'll do this again for the cut, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to use this option of repeat combine. This keeps my tool dialog box open, and I can just go to the next corner. And we'll do that. So there we go. So let me hide the box. And so those are all of my rabbets. And then it has the overall distance that I need to go into the garage with. And usually when I do my rabbets, I'll go ahead and I'll just do it right on my my router on my table saw. And it's really easy that I can just program it and shift it, but I know what my dimensions need to be. So from the fence down to my cutter edge is 0.5, or I can go on this side of it and do that. So I have the option. What I'll do is I'll always keep the top face next to my fence and then cut that with my router, and it's super fast. Sometimes I'll use my dado. It all depends on how much time I have and how quick I can do it. When I go through the dado, it takes a while because I have a saw stop and I have to take out the cartridges, and there's a whole laundry list of stuff. But yeah, there is my 1/4 inch rabbet for my box lid to slip into. Now let's go ahead and let's make this look like an American flag. So I know those are my sides. I'm going to hide those, and now we're going to start working on this. So the American flag, let's see. There's 13 stripes. This is 9 inches that we got to work with. So let's do some beer math really quick. I'm going to draw. I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm going to use this top face. And let me get my calculator out. Calculator. There's a generator online that will give you the exact dimensions of what you need to work with. But for this, we'll just do it on the spot. So I know I have 9 inches to work with. I have 13 stripes that need to fit in here equally spaced. So I'll take 13 divided by 9. That's going to give me, well, no, I did that wrong. 9 divided by 13. So each one of my stripes need to be 0.69 of width. Yeah, that's a hard dimension to get to when you have to cut all these stripes of wood out. So let's say that's going to be pretty close. Let's go. Yeah, we can use that dimension, and then I'll work around that a little bit. Let's go 0.7. And what I like, I have a drum sander. I highly can't stress it enough to get a drum sander, because you can really control when you're removing material better than a normal planer. So if I need a critical dimension of say 0.7, that's what it needs to be. And that is super nice to have, and it makes it very easy. So yeah, let's do that. So let's go ahead and we'll draw. Let's draw. Why isn't it clipping onto that? Should. Let's go back. Let me project this really quick. Project. We'll do these corners again. Oop. And yeah, let's do, I'm going to make just an overall box. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down 0.7. Yeah, 0.7. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rectangular pattern function, and I'm going to click this box that I just made. And I'm going to bring these down. I'm going to evenly space these of 0.7. Oops. Don't want to go that way. I want to go down. And let's do 13. There's my 13 stripes. And you can see I had a little bit of overhang. That is like very small, and it doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and we'll hit OK on that. Those are all of my stripes. I'm going to cut this off. So with the trim tool, whoops, go back to my sketch. With the trim tool, I'm just going to delete these out. We'll go back out here, and we'll delete. I'm going to exit out of that tool. Now what we need to do is I need to know what the dimension of the union needs to be. So let's do, let me pull this up. American flag dimensions. And then we'll do this flag calculator. All right. So hopefully you guys can see this. Let me pull back up my main screen here. Oh, actually, give me a second here, guys. There we go. All right, let me pull this back up. Let's go. what was that, 14.5? And my width was 9. So like this thing, it's heart constrained, so I can't really control. So if I know my D value, that's 14 and a half. So the union should be 4.11. I'm going to go with 4 inches then. I'm going to keep it a whole number. You'll never notice that 16th of an inch difference. A lot of people struggle with that. And, you know, at the end of the day, you don't have to get too crazy on a lot of these things. So if I know my overall length needs to be 4 and I need to come up, let me just double check this. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, on the 6th one, it needs to come down. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it needs to come down 1 more. That definitely does not look right. Let me exit out of that. Let's see. 14 and a half, and it's showing that the union width, that's what it is. So this is the dimension that I'm looking for. 5.8. If I'm at 14.5, let's keep it at 5.75. 5.75. Not that one. Let's try that again. 5.75. Oh, this thing is kicking my butt. I don't know why I'm doing that. 5.75. All right. And that should give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with 7 on top. All right. So I'm going to click that corner. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete these lines. So let's go ahead and we'll take this out, take this out. I'll delete each one of these. Get out of that. And then, yeah, this should be good to go. So there's my union, and here's all the stripes that need to be put in. Still kind of looks funky to me. Yeah. 5.75. You know what? Let's go 6. I like that. Make it a little bit longer. So if that's 6, then each one of these lines will be 8.5. So 8.5 for these widths, 14.5 for these stripes. And then the overall distance of the union is 6 by 4.9. Okay, I like it. Cool. So that is the overall distances of each one of the stripes I have to make in the garage, plus the union. Let's go ahead and we'll finish this sketch. And then what I'm going to do to make it look like the American flag, that way everybody knows what we're making here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to extrude these downwards. Actually, there's an easier way to do this. So let's go ahead. We'll click all these. It's fine. And then we're going to go down 0.75 or 0.5. I'm going to cut those out, and I'm going to pull my drawing back up, and I'm just going to extrude these down. And I'm going to show you why we're doing this. Oh, you saying, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So we can go every other one. These are all new bodies. Oh, I'm going to repeat. I'm going to do that again. New bodies. Let's go 0.5 down. New bodies. Oh, I didn't go far enough down. Since I don't have my history turned on, I can't go back and do that. So I'm going to hit the edit undo button. All right, let's do every individual star. Let's do it this way. This will be a little bit quicker. Go down to negative 0.5. And these are new bodies. I'm going to repeat the extrude, and I'm going to do these stars or stripes. We'll go negative 0.5. We'll do new body. And we'll do the same thing for the union. All right, let's get some material. So the reason why I didn't join all this together onto this bottom is I'm going to put a veneer backing. That way you can't see the stripes on the inside of the box. And we'll kind of look at that a little bit. And it only has to be a veneer sheet. You don't really have to do anything crazy. Let's see. Yeah, Brooks, that's exactly what I got too. And just to make life just a little bit easier on me, going that 0.2 difference for the union to get the 6 inches really does help minimize the amount of mistake that can happen when I'm cutting all this material out on my table saw. Same way with the 4.11. And because I increased the distance here, and it's a little wonky, but it's so close that you really can't, you'll really never notice it unless there's a purist there be like, yeah, your dimensions are off. I haven't ran into anybody like that yet, but you never know. But so I'm taking a little bit of risk and I'm getting outside the regulational dimensions of that flag. But again, can you notice it? Is it something that you got to really pay attention to? It's hard to say. But let's go ahead. I'm going to hide. I'm going to hide all this sketch drawing, and then let's go ahead and let's put some material on this, some appearance. And yeah, that's good. So let's put walnut in. Yeah, we can use the curly maple. Let me just double check if I remember right. Yeah. So it's every one of these. So let's highlight. Oh, I don't want to do that. No. Same way with this, same way with this, same way with this, same way with this. And then we'll come in with the cherry. And I'm going to use Paduke because it gets a really nice red color. But for the design portion in here, this appearance, it looks, it's easier on the eyes to use cherry, and it looks like a contrasting red color. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to use a darker veneer on the background or the bottom of that lid. So if I know that I'm going to veneer this, I'm good to go. So let's go ahead and let's pull up the sides of the box again. And for the box, we'll use maple. I'm going to use big leaf maple for the outside of this box. It's highly figured. It's super nice. I need to input the textures in here. that shows all the figured wood that I have. And like, I need to eventually do that at some point. But so the inside of the box, when you flip the lid open, you won't see that American flag. It'll be whatever material that I use to veneer it, which I like. I don't want the American flag to show on the reverse side. There's going to be no stars on it. It's going to look wonky. And so veneering takes all of that out. I don't have to worry about it. All right. My coffee is cold, so I'm going to graduate to a Red Bull. I like to drink energy drinks when I go through all the design work because it keeps me focused. Okay, I'm going to hide all the appearance stuff. Let's go back. Now, critical thing is I know all the dimensional material that I need to cut by material. So the Paduke, I know exactly what these dimensions need to be to fit inside this box. I know what size the uni needs to be. And then all the white stripes for the curly maple that I'll use. What's not accounted for is this additional rabbet that I accounted for. So let's hide these sides. So technically, I need to account for this 0.25 in this distance on both sides. So this top portion, if this is 0.7, I need to add 0.25 on this side and on this side to account for when I machine this rabbet into it. Same way for this one, if I cut it 0.7, I need to add to the overall length of this 0.25 rabbet that I'm going to cut. So I got to do that for each one. So I'll have to take really good notes, and when I get in, I'll account for it. So technically, this will be this overall dimension for all the widths from this point to this point. And then when I do my veneering on the back, you won't see the actual stripes. But this will be, stripes technically. So I don't really have to model that unless I want to. For this case, I'm already accounting for it, and I took that mental note. I'll know that this stripe is 0.9 or 9 inches of length that I got to cut. And then I got to account for an additional 0.25 for this thickness. Everything else maintains its 0.7 distance all the way down, except this one. And this one actually got kind of wonky. So if this was 0.6 plus 2.5, that's, I gotta make sure I machine that to 0.85 width, and then get my overall distance or my length on that. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I took a mental note of that where I have to do that in the garage. But that gets me to my box. Now the fun part. I'm going to machine a contour all the way on top of this so it's wavy. So to do that, I'm going to use this mesh that I already have, and I'm going to scale this to where it will cut the profile of this on this box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to right click. Let's copy. I'm going to go back. I'm going to paste this in because I don't want to mess. This is associated with other cuts, and I don't want to mess with it. So I just made a copy, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to position this. Just touching that top surface. Same way with this. So that is technically good. I'm going to hit OK. Actually, let's go with top view. And let's get this centered into the material. It needs to come in. Now it looks about right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide all of this stuff. Let me highlight all of it. Let's go ahead and hide. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this. So let's go to modify. We'll go to scale. Oh, why wouldn't you do in the middle? All right, that's fine. Let's bring this back. Unhide this. Of course that wouldn't do it. Actually, let me do it with a sketch. Not that one. This one. Let's see here. Man, I can't select that base. It's fine. There's an easier way to do this, but for this, let's just do this. So let's go ahead and we'll scale this. We'll hide this base so I can select it. And then we'll pull this drawing back up. All right, let's scale this thing. That's going to be pretty close. Let's move this. Ew, yeah. See, I got really wonky with my measurements here. All right. Oh. Hit OK on that, and then we're going to scale this one more time. Hit OK on that. And this thing got really, really wonky. You know what? I think that should be fine. Because right now I'm just looking for the profile. All right, let's go ahead and let's bring all of our bodies back up. We'll unhide all this. Ew, look at that. Little too big. Hey, what's up, John? Appreciate you joining us. Right now we're trying to make a wavy flag box. Almost there with it. So I'm going to bring this down just a little bit because I don't want to cut the top portion. Ooh. Go a little bit more. Let's bring this down just a little bit. I think that's the closest I'm going to get. All right, let's check one more thing. Let's hide these boxes. And let's see. Ooh, look at that. That is not going to work. Okay. Let's do something here. Let's increase the overall distance. Let's add, actually, let's use the push-pull method. Let's go 0.75 up. Still achievable. We'll hit OK on that. Now let's go ahead and move this. Let's go ahead and move this back up. Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll stop it right there. All right, I like it. Let's hit OK on that. Now, before I cut this into everything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this box back open. And I'm going to hide this mesh. And I'm going to pull the sides of my box now upwards. And I'm going to go to the top of this box distance. Because remember, I still want it flush. So let's go to object. We'll use this face. Oop. Distance to object. There we go. Oh, did it join everything? It did. Cancel. We'll use the push method. So let's go ahead and we'll pull this up. And we'll go 0.75. Oop. 5. All right. Now what we can do is let's cut this profile into it. So to cut this profile, we'll use the split body. And then we'll select all the bodies that we need to split. So I'm going to use, let's do these. We'll select the sides. And then we'll hit OK. Oh, actually, before we do that, splitting tool, we'll use this profile. All right. Now, what we'll do is I'm going to remove the reverse side of this. So let's go ahead and we'll delete. Oh, I didn't select the. Oh, that's funny. All right, that's easy. Let's do this and this, and then the same profile. And then we'll delete these two. Delete. Hide the mesh. And there is our wavy box lid. Now let's check the sides here. So actually, let me get kind of organized here. Let's go ahead and we'll do wavy box. Cancel on that. Wavy box lid. And I'm going to dump all of this in here. We'll put this all in that folder. Okay, so let's hide these corners, and then we'll see the box lid. And then let's go ahead and we'll hide that, and we'll look at what we need to make for the sides. So there's my dado, and there's the profile that I need to cut. So when I go into the CNC machine, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to machine the sides of these boxes for each one. And then what I'll do later is I'll take it back to my table saw and I'll cut the miters in. So technically, let's look at it from this side. Let's select this, and I'm going to rotate this. Let's just rotate it 90 degrees. that is the part that I will cut on my CNC machine. So the dados, I'm just gonna, since I'm probably gonna use a quarter end mill to cut this profile out, I can do both. So there's the sides that I got to cut. The dado, or the basically the plug to go in and do the shoulder, and that's the part that I need to make. And then we'll have the profile. Let's go back. Bring these back. Excuse me. We'll bring these back. And there it is. Now, I added a bunch of material in here, so I got to look at my tolerances for this box. I'm probably going to have to bring these up just a little bit, increase the overall depth of the box, just to make sure what's ever fitting inside of it fits. And we can do that pretty simple. But I like it, and that's actually a really cool profile for that box. That should actually look really cool. Now what we need to do is we need to identify where we're going to cut this box out. So let's go ahead and let's bring the puzzle base and the completed puzzle back, and we'll see how it interacts with this. Let's hide the box lid. And yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks like it's going to fit pretty well. Okay. It needs to come down. So let's go ahead and we'll cut the top of this off. What I want to do is leave at least 1/4 of an inch from the top of the lid, the bottom of the top of the lid. And that just gives me a little bit more clearance because this is a hard edge. And the base, or the top of the bottom side of that lid, that's the bottom right here. So let's cut that 1/4 of an inch down from that. So there's a couple ways we can do this. The easiest method, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the puzzle pieces, is I'm just going to go ahead and make a construction plane. And I'm going to use this right here. And I'm going to offset it by 0.25. I'll hit OK on that. Now, what I can do, let's do split body. I'm going to select the bodies that I want to split. Let's see if this actually works. And then the plane, I'm going to select this plane if it lets me. No, that's okay. What's the easiest way to do this? Let's do split face. That's what we want. I don't know if this will work. Oh, that looks like it will. Let's do that. Nope. That's okay. All right, let's do this. I'm going to copy these. Let's make a copy. This is probably the wrong way of doing this, but there's always one way of doing something in Fusion. This might actually be the best method. Let's go ahead and hide this, and then let's go ahead and we're going to push. Let's just push these corners. Oh, no. Let's do cut. So I'm going to cut these out. So let's go ahead and the distance, but for the extent type, let's go to objects. The object is that plane, that offset plane that we created. So if you can see, it's still here. So it will go to that distance. And we'll cut it. All right, let's hide this plane. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a combine, and I'm going to cut this. Oh. Actually, let's do yeah, let's use this tool. We'll cut this target body with this target body with the tool. I'm going to save it and do the same thing. Target body is the main base. Tool body will be this profile. We'll repeat. Target body, top portion. We'll repeat. Target body, tool body, and then we'll repeat. Okay, let's hide. So there is my base. Here is my lid. And here's the topper of that. So let's go ahead and hide this base. So that's effectively my lid for that box. And I left a 1/4 inch of material here. That'll be the friction as it comes down, because I'll put inserts into the box. I would technically make this a little bit smaller or a little bit larger, just so I have a little bit of ceiling to work with for the box. But for this, it should be okay. Really, really like that profile. That actually turned out pretty cool. And then, so let's go ahead and pull the puzzle base back up. And let's actually see if it hits. So easiest way is to do section analysis, and we'll use this face, and we'll just kind of bring this in. So let's look at it from the right side, and you can see I am definitely hitting. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's close. Yeah. Definitely hitting the backside. Ooh, man, that's close. Too close for comfort. So I know this thing needs to come down. Let's go ahead and cancel that. Let's hide all of the section analysis stuff. Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll bring this lid up just a little bit. Actually, let's pull this bottom back up. Let's measure the distance here. See how much room I have. So 0.75-ish. Yeah. I'm going to end up bringing this down just a little bit. So let's go another 1/4 inch. So let's bring this box down 1/4 inch. So I will extend them. Let's go 0.25. 0.25. And then what we're going to do, the bottom of my lid. Oh, you thing. Okay. So we'll look at it this way. This is the bottom of the box. I'm going to leave a space here from the top of, and it's going to be a 1/2 of an inch thick bottom that's going to go in here. So if this is 0.25 plus another 0.5, that's 7.5 distance I need for this thing to sit inside of it. So as long as I don't break that dimension, I'm good. And so this is an inch. So that's perfect. That gives me a 1/4 of an inch of the puzzle piece structure when it goes into the box. The top portion is 0.25 from the top portion. So it's good. I am 100% good as far as my clearance. I know I didn't probably explain that correctly, but so let's go ahead and we'll visualize this a little bit better. So I'm going to make the bottom of the box here. So let's go, actually, let's do this. Let's do a construction plane off of this face, and I'm going to come down 0.25. I'm going to unhide that. Let me, so that's technically 0.25. That gives me my clearance, and that's going to be where I start that, the bottom of the box. Let's go ahead and we'll do a drawing off of that plane. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this inside corner again. So I'm going to project that because I can't snap to it from where I'm at on my drawing surface. I'm going to hit OK on that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw. And then I'm going to offset that by 0.25. That gives me my rabbit and shoulder joint. And that looks super good. And so let's go ahead and we'll finish sketch there. Now what we'll do is I'm going to hide all this stuff so we can visualize this a little bit better. Still on the bottom side here, so I'm going to extrude downwards. So the overall distance of this is going to be 0.5. And then I'm going to bring back my sides of the bottom of this box. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this into that to give me my joint. So we'll use the cut. My target body will be the side of each side. The tool is going to be the bottom of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut. I'm going to keep the tool. And then I'm going to do the same operation for all of these slides. Let's do recreate. Tool body. We'll recreate. Repeat. All right. Now what I can do is I can hide this bottom of this box. And there's my dado cuts that I need to make. Still leaving me 0.25 distance of the bottom of this. All right, so let's go ahead and go back. I'll bring this back in. Brooks, let's see. Interested to know your price point for selling a box and the puzzle. Yeah, oof, good question. It's a really good question because the original one that had just a normal box, let me pull up a picture of this thing. There was a lot of work on this thing, a lot of material. Let me pull this thing up. if I have a picture of it. I know I do. Yeah, here it is. Okay. I sold this for, with the box and the puzzle, everything. I sold that for, I think it was for a friend, so I cut him a deal, and they gave me a tip over it. I would probably be at the price point of $600 on this, and because I have to use so much material and I'm wasting so much material, the Padot costs, the curly maple costs, these veneer inserts cost a lot of money. So the overall profit margin is still above 100%. Um, but like material costs for this box alone with that big leaf maple, I mean, it got around almost $300 to $400 worth of material just to create that box. Um, the price point on the veneer compared to the Badoque and the curly maple and the walnut is almost on the same lines to recreate this for the flag wavy top of that lid. Um, so the price point probably would be at the same price, and you got to find the right buyer that would look at this and commit $600 to this overall piece. It's very unique. I've never seen anyone else make this. It's not on Etsy. It's not anywhere, right? Um, and yeah, Brooks, you're right. So I probably underpriced it just because of the amount of work. Um, but here in Colorado Springs, like I would sit on this for a while, and if I priced it above that $1,000 mark, um, could it get to it? Yeah, but I would have to find the buyer that has some kind of sentimental value and just has to have it. Sometimes those buyers are really, really hard to get to. Okay, so let's get back here. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. What if you made? Oh, let's see, John. What if you made the top of the flag following the wave cut of the box bottom? Let's see. What if you made the top of the flag follow the wavy cut? Ooh. Yeah. No, I think I understand what you're saying there. Um, yeah, it's definitely possible. Um, let's bring this back up and we'll just look at this again here. Let me put some appearance on this, and then we can visualize this just a little bit better. Let's do a walnut base. We'll close this. Oh, this thing is just not working right. All right, let's hide this top of this box. I like it. It's getting there. Let's do one thing. I'm going to drop this down. The easiest way for me to do this is to move everything as one. So I'm going to pull everything back up. Let's pull this back up. I'm going to hide. I need to go 1/4 of an inch. Let's get rid of the. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight all of it. And let's just verify I hit everything. I need to highlight this. Okay. That's good. This is good. Everything is there. Yeah. All right. Let's move this 1/4 of an inch up. 2.5. I'm going to hit OK on that. Now let's hide the box lid. Bring that base back in. And then we'll sit the puzzle in. And right now the puzzle, yep, it's aligned with the base of this. So let's do some section analysis to see exactly where we landed. All right, let's do inspect. We'll use this face, and then we're just going to come in. Let's hit OK on that. And then let's look at the clearance. So everything is in there, which is great. I have all of the tolerances correct. Everything is lined up, and I have enough clearance to where that box will sit down and it's good to go. Let me bring back John's comment. Let me make sure that I understood that correctly. That was when you were trying to figure out when the lid had missing area on the. Oh, okay, I got you. Yep. And honestly, John, what I would probably do, I would spend a little bit more time with this profile and to make sure that it matched the profile of this. This is the same profile of the wave on the puzzle pieces. But since I blew it up, right, I sized it bigger, the waves aren't dimensional anymore compared to what's on that puzzle piece. And like it's different. It still looks great. And I would probably just keep it because like there's some pretty big crevices here that look pretty good. Another thing is like how would I cut the top of this box off? I'm gonna have to, when I put it in my table saw, I'm gonna have to cut off of this edge, right? Because I don't have a flat surface anymore here. And so I just gotta those are the type of things that I really have to think about. And whatever I'm doing, is it really achievable through the constraints that I have in the workspace? Sometimes I'll design something that is just completely impossible or outside the realm of capable for my garage to cut. So let me get rid of this section analysis. Yeah, I would have to cut from this side, and I would have to cut this box. So when I would set my fence up, I would leave 2 inches and then cut off at this edge. Another thing that we didn't account for, and that's why I left that 0.25 distance between, let me hide this. Let's hide this. Whoop. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here, oh, come on. I didn't account for the kerf of my table saw blade. So when I make that cut, it's going to remove, what is it? A 32nd of material out for the kerf of the blade. So if I was drawing exact dimensions, again, if I don't leave enough space when I cut the box off, there's a good chance that it won't fit anymore. So that's just something that you got to really pay attention to. It gets me all the time because when I design again, I'm doing exact dimensions, and then whatever material that I'm losing during the process of making it, it happens. So, but yeah, it does look good. And say for some reason now, I want to make this box just a little bit thicker, right? As far as distance wise, I don't like this space. I just go to the push pull and say I want to add, let's add another 1/4 of an inch. 0.25, right? That gives me more meat here on the top of that lid. And now all I have to do is just move this up 0.25, and I'm back where I started for where I'm technically at with the bottom of the box. So it's still there, still crunched down. So now I can really start playing with the overall dimensions. And at the end of the day, too, is I know exactly how much material is being removed and how much material I need to start with. Um, so those, the basic sketches that I'm using, it's just getting me to a starting point, and then I'm sculpting everything else with extruding, pushing and pulling these sides. If I wanted to make this thing larger, as like with a 0.75 thickness material, I can do that here. I'm not going to lose anything. So I can push this another quarter of an inch out, and it will give me that dimension that I need to cut to when I get into the garage. So I really liked the modeling aspect of this, and it will give me the exact dimensions to get in and work with the physical material. Um, but yeah, so that I'm going to probably make this uh, pretty pretty soon. Probably late February is probably when I'll make that. Let me dump these in here, and then we'll just take this out. I'm going to bring this back in. So yeah, that's basically how I work through the design process. And the original idea, probably could change really, really fast if I see something in here that I really like and I want to account for. You know, that could take me into a completely different direction of the final outcome. I did that. That was the exact same thing for this design. If you guys remember last week, this was, a square almost looked like a wavy flag. And that was driving me crazy when I was going through everything. And then just a simple turn changed basically everything. And then that dictated where these honeycombs go. There's a whole laundry list, and it's almost in sequence as you start visualizing what you're trying to make. It's a huge feature in Fusion 360 to really dial down what you want to make. And then everything that it takes to do that. All right. So I'm digging it. I like it. You can't tell, maybe just a little bit here. This stripe is pretty small compared to the rest of them. I would probably relook at that again. But when you look at it, the thing is in there, you can't tell that this is non-dimensional from the regulation. So let's see, Brooks, price point wise, volume versus enhanced quality. Yeah. Yep. I could choose lesser value of material to keep the cost low. Sometimes that's an option for a customer that definitely wants this design, but it's just outside their budget. So can you work with, I wouldn't say pine, but something that's still a hardwood but doesn't cost as much. Cherry, that price point is actually not that bad. So I could make these stripes cherry, and it would still give that cool effect of contrast. I could choose not to use curly maple and use maple. That will cut the cost. Um, the union is kind of hard to get around because it's a unique color. But what I won't do, and this is just my personal opinion, I won't use stain to get it to a different color. I will try to find the hardwood that would get me there. And then same way with the outside of this box. I could use maple instead of big leaf maple. But again, like you see it, it's right there. If I want it to look unique and different, and you know, um, the materials really dictate the final outcome. And the box on this was extraordinary. Like the materials, you know, it demanded attention when you looked at it because you were looking at all this deviation and grain structure and the burls and how it's swirling, and then the contrasting veneers that I used and the color points and how it created that depth. But the outside of this box, like that maple, it was extremely figured and it looked really, really well. And it flowed. it can get the cost down, but now, like, it's something that I struggle with because at the end of the day, it increases the price significantly. It's just something you got to take into effect. Um, all right. So that's what it's going to look like. And that's kind of how I walk through the design flow and to get to an end state. And who knows? I could look at this and tomorrow I could be like, man, I should go to a different direction and do something different. But all my dimensions are here. I can walk into the garage right now and find the material that could meet these dimensions of this box and knock it out. And really, it's completing the box and then cutting this profile, and I'm good to go. So, all right. So with that, what I'm probably going to do is later this evening, I'm just going to retouch this up, continue to do the tool path generations for it. And man, I was trying to get this stuff cut out this week and get a video posted about this week. It just didn't happen. Ran out of time, ran into some issues with my test cuts, which is super awesome. Ooh, Brooks, you're right. The stars. Yeah, I still need to cut the stars in. I was kind of skirting that, whether I was going to do that during the live stream. But what I have, and I can just bring this up really quickly, is I have the drawings for the stars that I can manipulate and bring over and then scale it to do the stars. And what's interesting about this, and let me pull a cam up to show this. When I do the V-carve on this, the toolpath generation is constrained within this boundary, and it follows it. So I don't have to really do anything. All I got to do is position this drawing over this, and I'm good to go into my manufacturer portion and start cutting that out. But yeah, I still have to do the stars. I've seen where people don't do the stars, and it still looks super awesome. I would still V-carve the stars into this. And maybe, since I figured out how to do the plugs for the 3D V-carve, this would probably be a perfect opportunity to program a deep V-carve inlay and V-carve those stars into it. Inlay them in. Probably, Brooks, you talked me into it. Yep, it's happening. So I'm going to make a note of that when I come back in. Yep. Thanks, Brooks. I got another 2 hours of trying to program that in. But it's worth it, right? So again, to do that takes time, and that increases the amount of machine time, material now. That's impacted by the price now. So if the price point doesn't justify doing V-carve inlays on a 3D surface, got to take that into effect, and then add that to the price for whatever you're trying to sell it for. So, man, this is the second week, Brooks, that you've talked me in to using material designing that I originally didn't think about. But so to go back here, remember last week we were talking about the material for this. So I inventoried all of my Osage orange, and it's so cracked, and there's so many inclusions in this stuff. I can't use it. I was doing all the math and what it would take for the material costs to do this, and the amount of Osage orange that I do have, I don't have enough. So I'm probably going to go back to cherry, which is still good, but cherry is really hard to machine, and it just has some issues with it as far as chipping and all that. But man, I really you sold me on the Osage orange. It's too checked to where I can get enough material out of that thing. And Osage orange here is really hard to get my hands on. I can't just go to a wood store and get it. I was lucky to find that stuff. But anyways, um, all right. So with this, I'm probably gonna cut the stream off here pretty soon. Um, I'm really appreciated that you guys kind of stuck in there. You know, that's the workflow and the design process that I go into for every project. And it shapes and it changes, and there's different methods on trying to achieve an effect or the result that you want. And you just got to play around with it. And when you play around with it, it can lead you to a completely different solution or a different look, or, you know, some of the geometry is just not achievable, where you have to go into something else, and that could completely change the entire project. That is the process that I go through. So, all right, let's see. We're just at about an hour and 40 minutes. I think this is probably a good stopping point. Today's the 29th. Let's see. We got New Year's Eve on Tuesday, getting into New Year's Day, Wednesday, and then starting 2025 hot and heavy with just a ton of projects. All right. No, I think that's all I got. If anybody has any questions or want to talk about anything else, we can definitely do it. If not, we'll cut this one for today. So um, really appreciate you guys tuning in, showing support. I posted that video yesterday of different methods of, you know, trying to do step downs with a V carve, and that solved a huge issue. And it took me almost a full day to come to that conclusion. So just happens. But that gets me back in the garage. This will get everything machined this week, and then I should have that video posted of that build for the logo probably Friday or not, if not Saturday. So, all right, guys, I appreciate it, and I'll see you next week, if not the week after. All right, happy New Year's, cheers, and I'll see you in 2025. All right, thanks, guys.